Shalom to all our viewers around the world from Jerusalem, TV Israel News, and our program here is the Middle East Review. And we have done a lot, and we have covered a lot so far, but I think this time we have even more to cover a very intensive month we have seen here. And with me, as usual, Lerman is back,
Yes.
My good colleague and friend, Colonel, intelligence, doctor, and professor now, a man of many, many talents and experience. So, Eran, welcome back.
Yeah, health kept me away for a while, but I'm glad to be back in full force.
Good to see you in one piece and very, very healthy. So, Eran, let's start this way. We've had a lot of things here, but there are two major things that I think will probably impact the entire region, and certainly, if we are forward-looking,
The world.
So one, of course, is the election of President-elect Trump, former President and President-elect Trump, who will come into the Oval Office 21st of January. Until then, we have a period of lame ducks of Biden.
Yep.
We'll be happy to hear your opinion if that would make any difference at all, you know, the remaining time of Trump. Of course, the ongoing discussions about an agreement, a ceasefire in Lebanon. And I hope we'll have time to talk about the peripheral area here, especially Erdogan and his shenanigans lately, and of course Iran and how they would react to the E3 statement about their nuclear breach.
And sanctions in retaliation for their support for Russia and Ukraine,
Exactly.
which is becoming very much a European issue because
Right.
they're not quite certain it will stay an American issue.
Right.
Under Trump. But certainly the American elections early November changed everyone's perspectives. It was supposed to be a close race. It turned out to be a fairly decisive win.
A real landslide, I would say.
Nearly a landslide. Clearly, to the surprise of many, even the popular vote went Trump's way, in addition to the Electoral College. But moreover,
It's the first time the Republicans won the popular vote since 1988, during Bush, the father.
Yeah, and the Reagan years.
And
yes.
Reagan, of course.
But moreover, they are now in control of both houses of Congress. And
That's called the trifecta.
yes. And let's not forget, the Supreme Court is still a Trump court. Biden did not have an opportunity in terms of people retiring or passing away to change its the seats there. And so everywhere you look, you now have a Republican-oriented branch of government down the road on the 20th of January onwards. And moreover, Trump has made some very dynamic and very interesting appointments early on to the key positions in his administration. And people with greater, I would say, let's look at what interests us as foreign policy, international affairs. I'm leaving aside defense, which is a controversial appointment. But on foreign affairs, the two key people, generally speaking, overall, are Mike Waltz, congressman, and Senator Rubio, an experienced senator, both from Florida. Florida is taking over now. Also the Attorney General is going to be the Florida Attorney General.
And the Southern White House will be in Mar-a-Lago, you know, Florida.
Yeah, as you can imagine. And these are people that we know very well for their positions on our issues. And most significantly, not only on the question of support for Israel and getting rid of all the limitations that the Biden administration imposed on certain issues, certain types of supply. But most important, and above all, Iran hawks, one and all. And while we were focused on other issues like the negotiations for a ceasefire or an end to the fighting in Lebanon, and the unresolved question of the day after in Gaza and Israel's own internal problems and dynamics, perhaps the most important thing that happened beyond the Trump election is the accelerated level of action and concern regarding the Iranian nuclear project, military nuclear project. Nobody enriches to 60%
Iran, you're
for
so
any
right.
other purpose.
By far, this is the most crucial, the most important issue, not just for Israel, not just for the Saudis and the Sunni countries, for the world. And we should not actually obfuscate this issue by all the other issues which are also important, Hamas, Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Turkey, everything else. But this is the one issue that I think will determine not only the term of Trump, whether it will be successful or not, but also, I would say, the fate of
global balance of power.
Yeah.
Clearly, I've been saying this again and again, Iran is not North Korea. Somehow, the North Korean breach of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which they signed and then broke and then withdrew from, did not bring the system down for specific reasons, which have to do with the fact that the PRC nuclear threat is there already, so the Japanese and the South Koreans and others in the region already shelter under the American wing and did not feel obliged to follow suit with their own nuclear programs. And perhaps now will feel more confident that the U.S. is rebuilding its nuclear deterrent sufficiently. In our part of the world, in the Middle East and the Mediterranean, Turkey would almost automatically follow suit if Iran gets the bomb. Saudi Arabia would turn to the Pakistanis. Egypt has the infrastructure and may try to charge forward. Others...
Even Jordan,
you do need resources for this kind of thing. But the UAE, imaginably, and so on. So you get into a cascading collapse of the NPT. To use the imagery, the North Korean crack did not break the dam. The cross crack of Iran, and of Iran associated with North Korea, with Russia, with China. Some people call it the CRINC, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, an alliance of active, aggressive challenges of the existing international order. This would really go, the implications go well beyond the security and safety of Israel, but obviously they would be of very, very severe implications for Israel. Therefore, the possibility of action against Iran is on the table. I believe that the Trump administration would try to use crushing economic pressure. But if that fails, or if we come to the conclusion that the Iranians are too close to a breakthrough, Israel may feel obliged to act with others if possible, alone if necessary. And this message has been, let's say, made manifest by sources within the Israeli government just recently.
Also by action. I think that today, after we have seen the Israeli retaliation against Tehran and Iran, and the success of the Israeli, let's say, Air Force and the ballistic missile defense, I think many in Israel are more assured that it can be done, because before people said, Israel cannot go alone. And if they do, maybe they can hit a few bottlenecks and postpone, delay the illegal nuclear program of Iran by a year and a half, 2 years. I think what we have seen, after Israel neutralized the entire air defense of Iran, without, any casualties on our side, thank God.
And in fact also attacked, as the Prime Minister asserted,
exactly.
One site related specifically to weapon development in Parchin.
In Parchin, exactly.
And but perhaps even more significant, here's where the Lebanese negotiations tie in with this. The main fear in Israel, in terms of what happens if we go against Iran, in addition to the question, are we capable? Well, the answer is we are. The other fear was that massive attack by Hezbollah would rain upon our cities, upon our infrastructure, upon our civilians, our citizens. Well, we've been in a high-intensity conflict with Hezbollah now.
And 80% of their arsenal is gone, of Hezbollah.
And we are suffering some losses, and we cannot underestimate the fear and the disruption of life in the north and even occasionally in the heart of Israel. But if you compare the actual effect of what Hezbollah has been able to do with the doomsayers' expectations just a year ago or 2 years ago, we are at a different level altogether. And if we can force Hezbollah to disengage from Hamas and desist from fighting because they've suffered such heavy losses, that's indicative that maybe they will also have to consider whether they once again want to see Lebanon destroyed and their own force obliterated, because they will be asked by Iran to retaliate. So the most potent weapon that Iran had is gone. Another one...
Meaning the Hezbollah.
Hezbollah.
So this is one strike against Iran. The second one is,
Hamas has been... we're still taking losses in fighting in Gaza. But the ability of Hamas to penetrate Israel or disrupt life in Israel has been reduced to practically zero. The third player, which is still out there and is still a headache, are the Houthis in Yemen. And I believe that the international... a coalition needs to escalate, and it has been escalating, its reactions to their disruption of world trade, of the sea lanes of communication through the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea. We are suffering the practical loss of our port in Eilat, which has basically been dysfunctional.
And Egypt lost 30% of its income.
But Egypt lost even more in the Suez Canal. So all of this needs to be resolved. But if you deal with the head of the snake, as some people say, or the head of the octopus, which is more... I have nothing against the octopus as an animal. A very, very clever and pleasant creature. But the imagery of an octopus
with many
is
arms.
Appropriate because of the many arms.
Yeah.
And the Iranian octopus is vulnerable. We know that now. Moreover, they have a man of advanced age at the leadership.
Yeah.
Perhaps they're planning to have him replaced by his son.
Which will cause a lot of stir among the Ayatollahs there, the mullahs.
And the people. Did they abolish the monarchy, the Pahlavi monarchy, in order to establish a Khamenei monarchy? The Egyptians used to call, at the time of Mubarak, when he was preparing his son for the succession, Syrian style or North Korean style, they called this a jamlaka, or gamlaka in the Egyptian dialect. Mamlaka is a kingdom.
Right.
Jumhuriya or Gumhuriya is a republic. So they said there's a kind of a monarchic republic. And that was a term of derision. And I think...
it was also a pun on his name, because his Mubarak's son's name is Gamal.
Jimmy. Yeah. So the Gamlaka was one of the reasons for the rise of the Egyptian people against Mubarak. And things could happen in Iran in a non-linear way. And with the new American administration committed to remove the Iranian threat to global stability, we could see things happening that we did not see in the last couple of decades. This is also, by the way, the position of the Israeli government. Netanyahu has spoken more than once directly to the Iranian people, telling them that we do not see them as the enemy, but we do have an enemy in their government.
Which is also their enemy.
Which is
the
their
government
enemy.
of the Ayatollahs, the radical Ayatollahs, is the enemy of the people of Iran, which is only supported, the Ayatollahs are only supported by maybe 20% of the population.
Deadly 20% with guns in hand. But even there, the IRGC is no longer the ideologically committed revolutionary force. It is another military. And many of its young recruits may actually refuse to shoot their sisters.
You know, Eran, what the objectors of Khamenei crowning his son, you know, their argument would be actually raising the rumors that Raisi, the former president of Iran, that was killed in the helicopter accident near Azerbaijan,
was put out of the way.
Was put out of the way by Khamenei, right? Because he was the only one in a serious way in the way from Khamenei's son to become the successor of Khamenei.
I was shocked by the level of hate towards Raisi and the regime that was revealed after his death in the social media, Iranian social media.
Well, it wasn't for nothing that he was called the butcher from Tehran.
Yes.
I mean, who did he butcher mostly? Iranians.
Yes, not mostly. Young Iranian dissidents that were butchered during the...
So, Eran, I have a question for you. 80s. You have analyzed quite rightly the situation in the Far East, whereby when North Korea actually breached their agreement. I still remember, I was at the UN at the time, the KEDO agreement with the Clinton administration. And they thought, okay, we have peace on earth, North Korea will not become nuclear. Of course, North Korea signed the agreement.
At some point they sent Jimmy Carter
to
talk to the regime.
Yes.
And
in Pyongyang.
Frankly, I remember writing to a friend, poor old Adolf Hitler, had Carter been around, he would still be in power.
That's right. Right, because Carter actually was more naive than Chamberlain. Yes. So I would say, when North Korea became nuclear, the region itself did not feel obliged to do the same because they had the American nuclear umbrella. Here, it would be different, as we mentioned,
different
and Turkey
very
and all of them. So the question is like that. Do we want to see an agreement? Because once Trump is in office, certainly by his deterrence capabilities, he may force even a stronger nuclear agreement on Iran. Maybe it will be even, I'm not sure, because the Iranians will play very hard. But let's say even they will be a different agreement, more than the JCPOA from 15.
What Biden promised but did not deliver, longer and stronger.
Exactly, longer and stronger. The question is, let's say there is a signature. Can Israel and the American allies in the region, mostly Saudi Arabia and the Gulf countries, can be assured that it can be enforced in a verifiable way, that the Iranians will not break through and we'll find ourselves one day that they detonated a device, a nuclear device. So would it be better to go once and for all and demolish as much as we can of the nuclear infrastructure, not alone, but with the U.S. and a U.S.-led coalition?
Well, if that's an option, clearly it's preferable because Israel has formidable capabilities, but it's much better if it's done with international legitimacy and with a much broader range of capabilities and sustainable over time. But if the Trump administration forces the Iranians to their knees and they deliver the extraction out of Iran of their highly enriched uranium in a much more comprehensive way, and the centrifuges stop wearing, and there is a much stricter regime that can be enforced. And Israeli intelligence continues to be perceived by the Iranians as sufficiently penetrating to be able to kill Fakhrizadeh on his way to lunch, and as the Iranians see it, the leader of Hamas under their own hospitality in his bed. If they fear these capabilities, we may generate a deterrent atmosphere that would make it unnecessary to use force. But the threat of force must remain active. Intelligence capabilities must be enhanced. International cooperation and coordination on this issue must continue, and Israel must build a much more formidable military machine down the road for all contingencies in the north, in the south, and vis-a-vis Iran. That's a lesson from what we've been through since October 23.
Yeah. And then there is another point which also should be discussed. Let's say, again, and this is the legitimacy of the Iranians' regime in Iran, among the population. We say there is no legitimacy, but the question is, if there was an attack on the nuclear installations in Iran, would that bring the people of Iran closer because of nationalistic feelings to the regime, or maybe the other way around? Because if it's the other way around, maybe we should go for as you said, a longer and stronger agreement with Iran, which maybe will have a chance over time for the people of Iran to topple this regime. As you said, it's not a linear thing.
No, it's not linear, and it's very difficult to predict how an attack would reverberate with the Iranian people. But the indications are that there was no wave of identification with the regime as the result of the Israeli raids that have already taken place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, there were the opposite indications. We're waiting for you. Come and finish. Somebody in the Iranian social networks gave us the coordinates of Khamenei's home. I mean, so the theory that this would unite the Iranians rally around the flag effect, I never bought it, and I don't buy it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, we have our own legitimacy problems. We should have mentioned the scandalous warrant business in the ICC.
Very scandalous.
Scandalous and very sad. It puts a very negative stamp on an institution that originally, by the way, Israel was involved in trying to put together, and then we withdrew from the Statute of Rome because the Arab League managed to insert items that were specifically designed against Israel, having to do with
single us out. Yeah.
Single us out. And now this is a catastrophic mistake at every level. Well, in fact, it plays into the hands of those in Israel who want to pursue a much more aggressive
and
policy.
Also,
you know the old English saying, "Hang for a sheep, hang for a lamb, hang for a sheep." So we might as well steal the sheep.
Exactly.
But I'm not saying I accept this logic, but the people who support this logic have an argument now to put forward. Yeah. Look, what did it help us that we were so careful with the lives of people in battle combat areas?
Remains to be seen the Trump's new administration reaction to this ICC, because it also puts in danger allied forces, whether it's British or American troops around the world, for being tried by the ICC. And what we see here, and this is part of the scandalous effect, is that the first time we see the ICC acting against a democratic country which has a robust, independent judicial system, ignoring totally this complementary principle. And this is something which may delegitimize the ICC.
Yeah, sadly so.
Altogether, because so far, who do we see? The ICC acted against tyrannies and dictatorships, whether it was Bashir in Sudan or Putin or Gaddafi, or even Milosevic.
No, Milosevic was a different court.
Yeah, but it's still right.
But the idea of putting on trial individuals for war crimes, but this is a completely misguided step. And yes, I think the present American administration has reacted very strongly. I have to say, for people in Israel, there are many people in Israel who have a problematic view of Biden, but he reacted very strongly to the ICC warrants, and he vetoed an anti-Israeli resolution at the Security Council, which Obama did not in 2016.
Right. No, Biden is different than Obama.
Biden is a very different story.
He still feels himself, and he is, I think, a Zionist at heart. But the Democratic Party, I mean, they have their own problems because
they have an internal split, and I think some of them are trying to understand that this progressive squad dragged them down
into a colossal defeat. Absolutely.
Yes. It's part of the story.
Yeah, but Biden still, with all the strong condemnation of the ICC, having this arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Gallant, he stopped short at any sanctions against the ICC.
Yes, but that
Trump
will pass
said
the
that
next
they would
Congress.
pursue them. Yes.
Yes.
The next Congress and the Trump administration may easily impose personal sanctions on all the ICC.
We shall see. Yes.
Which may change their attitude. But I would say that
That's all the time we have, I think.
we have, yes, in order to kind of wrap things up, still, with all the developments, maybe ceasefire in Lebanon, maybe later ceasefire in Gaza, still the main focus should be on Iran and Iran
again.
And we'll have to keep doing that. We will still keep the focus on Iran. And we want to thank all our viewers around the world for watching another program of Middle East Review here in Jerusalem from TV7 in Israel.